Hey everybody, and welcome to Archery 101. This week, we're going to talk about compound releases. So how am I going to do it? Well, I'm going to shoot a longbow. This place has a great indoor range. Got a Wolverine badger thingamabobber, and to hit them, I got to go over the bear and through the tire. I like this. That was fun. All right. Let's talk about some releases, shall we? All right, everybody, here I am at the Northern Duchess Archery Supply in Red Hook, New York. This is Joe, the proprietor, and we are going to cover releases for compound bows. Joe, thanks for having me here today.
Thank you, appreciate it. Hello,
all right,
everybody.
We have a nice selection here, and he's going to go through them and talk to them. Now, you know me, I have no clue. I shot a compound once, so I'm going to learn right along with you. So what's the first one we have here?
The first release we have is probably one of your most common releases. This is a wrist-style caliper jaw release. This is what you're going to see most commonly used by a lot of archers out there and a lot of hunters. It goes on your wrist, and it tightens up. And it has a caliper jaw, which is adjustable for length. So these releases can be tailor fit for the size of your hand and to fit your trigger finger properly. Well, basically all you're doing with this release, we'll show you on the simulator, is you're going to hook on to either your D-loop or your string. When you come to full draw, you'll wrap your finger around the trigger and squeeze, and it goes off. So these are most commonly the easiest to operate and most commonly found, and by most people you see widely used for in hunting situations, target shooting. Beginners tend to gravitate towards this release. It's easy to use, it's foolproof, and that's basically it. They do fold back out of the way, so if you're hunting and you're climbing a tree stand, you have that option to put this on before you go.
Price range? Price
range on these style releases will run on the low end 35, 40 bucks, high end 100, 110.
Sounds great.
So there's a wide price range on those.
Okay, and our next one is a thumb.
Yeah, this is a handheld trigger release. It is thumb actuated, so by using this release, you'll pull back on the thumb trigger and the jaws will open up. It's basically the same style as the wrist style release, only it's held in your hand, and this one is 4 fingers. They do come in 3 fingers, some of them come in 2-finger versions. 4 fingers seems to be pretty popular amongst hunters. And on the simulator, again, you're going to open up your jaws, you'll snap it onto either your string or your D-loop. You'll come to full draw, you'll anchor, and then with your thumb you start to pull on the trigger until it goes off. These are pretty popular. You see a lot of guys hunting with these now. I don't sell far as many of these as we do wrist style releases.
Price range?
Again, on these, you'll spend somewhere probably between 50 and you could spend up to probably 130 on them.
Okay.
So they do vary quite a bit.
I do like the upside down.
Yeah, it's a different anchor point, and it comes and it hits you in the jaw.
It just seems more natural to me than...
Finger shooters tend to find that a little bit easier to use sometimes.
Okay, our next one looks like a thumb also.
This is a thumb release. This is, you start getting into a target style release. This has a set trigger. So when you actuate the set on the back, it tightens the jaw down. And then you have an adjustable thumb trigger here. So this release can be set for tension, travel. I mean, literally you can set this release to breathe on it and it goes off. And basically very little pressure, you'll hear the click and it fires. So there's no trigger travel here. You can't really anticipate this release. This release is one of my favorite releases. For target shooting and hunting, I use it for both. But I shoot it as a back tension style release. I don't trigger the thumb with my finger. I wrap my fingers around the release, so my 2 fingers touch, and then as I squeeze my back together, it forces the release into my thumb and makes it go off.
I think that's ingenious.
So on the simulator, again, this has to be shot only on a D-loop because it is a single jaw. It'll hook onto your loop. I come to full draw, anchor, and I touch my 2 fingers together, And as I start to squeeze my back together, the release goes off, so it's a surprise. So it's a good, clean, crisp release, surprise when it goes off, and it is also adjustable. The head pivots and adjusts so you have a perfectly aligned D-loop. You're not S-ing the D-loop when you come to full draw.
Awesome. Okay, and our next one is...
Our next release is a back tension style, and it's called a hinge style release. There's no trigger on this release whatsoever. It is actuated by the rocking motion of your hand and arm as you tighten your back up. It hinges forward, and then as it hinges forward, the release lets go. So basically, again, on the simulator, this has to be shot on a D-loop. You cannot shoot this off of a string. It's going to go on, draw back, anchor. I'm going to let off of the thumb, and now as I start to tighten my back, you'll hear a click, and it'll go off. As I start to squeeze more and more and more, it goes off from the hinge motion. So I don't know if everybody heard the click, but we can...
I did.
we can try that again. I'll do it quietly. You'll hear the click. And as you tighten your back up, it tends to bring your elbow back, which gives you the rotation, which lets the release fire. Probably one of the most hardest releases to get to know how to use. A lot of people have trouble drawing them. You have to draw them with a certain pressure on your thumb, or they can give you a bloody lip. They can go off and actually punch yourself in the mouth. So people have a hard time getting used to it, but once you realize how to shoot a back tension release, things usually become better.
And the price range on those?
Price range on this hinge and this target style release are going to run you somewhere between $160 to $225 roughly. So they do, as you go up into the target range, they get much more expensive.
Always does. And then you got the next one. That's an interesting design.
This is what they refer to as a pull-through release. This has no trigger and is simply, it's actuated by pressure. As you're pulling on the bow and you get to your anchor and you start pulling, the release just lets go. So these releases have to be specifically set to your holding weight of your compound bow. So when you're in full draw and you have your let off, we generally gauge the holding weight and we set the release so it gets you pretty close. Okay. Generally 2 to 3 pounds over is when it'll release. The button on here is just a safety. All right, so you have to hold your finger on the safety when you're drawing or it'll go off. So on the simulator, again, this has to be shot off of a D-loop. So if I don't hold my finger on the safety, you'll see it'll fire. So when you use this properly, we reset the hook it on. Thumb goes on the safety. We come to full draw. We anchor. We let go of the safety, and then we just start to continually pull and rotate, and it goes off. Awesome. This is probably the easiest release to learn how to use when it comes to learning how to shoot back tension. A lot of people refer to it as a training aid, but a lot of shooters do shoot it regularly and compete with it. Because you don't have the problem rotation, possibly punching yourself in the mouth, you have the safety on here, it becomes a little bit easier to get the release to fire.
Price on that?
These will run around $200.
Awesome. And then our final one that we have today.
This is a wrist style pull-through release. It works very similar to the handheld release, only it goes around your wrist. And basically this one works the same way.
Big thing I noticed is everything he's talking about is exactly what we do in traditional archery. Back tension, good clean release. All they did is take our release and put it in a mechanical form.
Right.
You know, there's people that do shoot off back tension, anchor points, cycle connect where you touch a point, the feather touches nose. All it is, you know, for you traditional archers, little obnoxious people that we are, it's the same thing, it's just mechanical.
So this release basically works the same way. It has a trigger on the side, which is a safety. And again, on the simulator, this has to be shot off of a D-loop. You cannot shoot this off of a bare string. So if I pull on this without the safety on, it fires before I can get the full draw. So once this is set and it's hooked on your D-loop, we're going to hold your safety. We come to full draw, we let off, and then we just start to pull and the release goes off. So it gives you that surprise release. You don't anticipate It helps eliminate people that are suffering with target panic. And again, this is one of the easier releases to learn how to use in a back tension style release.
And the price on that?
This again will run you somewhere in the neighborhood of 180 to 200 bucks.
All right, everybody, there it is. That's your basics on releases. We're not getting into anything fancy. This is to give you an idea so you can decide which you want. I'd like to thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me today.
Appreciate it.
All right, boys and girls, I'll see you next week on another episode of Archery 101.